Here is something most car owners never think about. The country your car was designed in created habits around how people drive it. And those habits either destroy your engine or keep it alive for 300,000 miles. Germany and Japan build some of the best engines on the planet. That is not debatable. But the way people actually use those engines in each country tells a completely different story. One culture has a habit baked into its driving DNA that accelerates engine wear, burns through oil, and causes catastrophic carbon buildup. The other culture has a system so strict, so obsessive, that used cars from their country arrive in foreign markets looking practically brand new, with engines that barely show any wear. Today, we are breaking down the specific German driving habit that is silently killing engines, and the Japanese habit that is saving them. By the end of this, you might want to seriously rethink how you treat your own car. Let's start with Germany. Germany has something no other major country on Earth has: the Autobahn. Over 8,000 miles of highway, large stretches have no speed limit whatsoever. You can legally push your BMW, Mercedes, or Audi to 155 miles per hour, and on some sections people go well beyond that. Sounds incredible, right? Sounds like automotive freedom, and it is. But here is what nobody talks about. That freedom comes at a massive cost to your engine. When you are cruising at 130 to 160 miles per hour, your engine is not just working hard. It is operating at sustained high revolutions per minute for extended periods. We are talking 4,000, 5,000, sometimes 6,000 revolutions per minute for minutes or even hours at a time. That is not what your typical commuter engine was designed to handle day after day. At those speeds, oil temperatures skyrocket. The lubricant that is supposed to protect your engine's internals starts breaking down faster. The thin film of oil coating your cylinder walls gets consumed at an accelerated rate. In fact, at sustained high revolutions per minute, engines can consume up to a quart of oil every 500 miles. That is not a leak. That is your engine literally drinking oil because of how hard it is being pushed. German manufacturers actually consider this normal. They put it right in the service bulletins. But here is where the German habit gets really dangerous. It is not just about high-speed driving on the Autobahn. It is about what German manufacturers told their owners to do with their oil changes. For years, BMW recommended a 15,000-mile oil change interval. That is nearly 3 times what most mechanics would advise. BMW's logic was straightforward. They used high-quality synthetic oil, precision-engineered engines with tight tolerances, and an onboard condition-based service system that supposedly monitored oil quality. So they told owners, do not worry about it. Your car will tell you when it needs fresh oil. The problem? Service shops started seeing engines that used to last 300,000 miles on shorter intervals, barely surviving to 150,000 miles. Independent mechanics were pulling valve covers off BMWs and finding thick, sludgy deposits caked onto internal components. One shop documented a plug of sludge so dense it completely blocked the oil drain. The oil could not even leave the engine. In 2013, BMW quietly sent out a letter to owners reducing the recommended interval from 15,000 miles to 10,000 miles. They never publicly acknowledged the damage that years of extended intervals may have caused. They just shortened the number and moved on. And even 10,000 miles is still considered aggressive by many experienced BMW technicians, who recommend changing the oil every 5,000 to 7,500 miles for real-world protection. The cost of an oil change? Maybe $100 to $200. The cost of a new engine because of sludge buildup? $15,000 to $50,000. That math should terrify every German car owner who blindly follows factory intervals. Now, combine the high-speed Autobahn culture with those stretched-out oil change intervals, and you have a recipe for accelerated engine death. But we're not done yet. There's a third German habit that's arguably the most damaging of all: short trips with cold engines. Germany has dense cities: Berlin, Munich, Frankfurt, Hamburg, millions of people drive short distances, 2 to 5 miles, just to get to work, drop off kids, or run errands. And in a modern German turbocharged direct injection engine, short trips are absolutely devastating. Here's why. When you start your engine cold, fuel does not fully vaporize in the combustion chamber. The engine runs rich, meaning it dumps extra fuel to compensate. That unburned fuel and soot get past the piston rings and contaminate the oil. If you only drive 5 miles, the engine never reaches full operating temperature, so that contamination never burns off. Moisture and fuel accumulate in the oil, diluting it, reducing its ability to protect, and accelerating sludge buildup. But the bigger issue with German direct injection engines is carbon buildup on the intake valves. In a traditional port injection engine, fuel sprays over the intake valves before entering the combustion chamber. That fuel acts like a cleaning agent, washing away carbon deposits. In a direct injection engine, fuel goes straight into the cylinder, completely bypassing the intake valves. Nothing cleans them. Meanwhile, oily crankcase vapors from the PCV system and hot exhaust gases from the EGR system are constantly flowing over those valves, baking residue into rock-hard carbon deposits. Short trips make this dramatically worse because the engine never gets hot enough to slow the accumulation. Vehicles driven mostly on short trips can develop severe carbon buildup as early as 20,000 to 40,000 miles. Symptoms include rough idle, misfires, loss of power, poor fuel economy, and eventually engine damage. The fix? Walnut blasting, where a technician literally blasts crushed walnut shells against the intake valves to physically remove the carbon. It typically costs $400 to $800, and it is a procedure most German direct injection engines will need at some point. Many owners do not even know this is happening until the check engine light comes on and the repair bill hits 4 figures. So let's tally up the German habit: high-speed, sustained driving that burns oil and stresses internals, extended oil change intervals that allow sludge to accumulate, and short city trips that create carbon buildup and oil contamination in direct injection engines. 3 habits, 1 result: engines that deteriorate faster than they should, despite being brilliantly engineered. Now, let's fly to the other side of the world. Japan does things very, very differently. If you have ever wondered why a 15-year-old Toyota with 200,000 miles still runs like it just rolled off the line, or why used Japanese cars exported to Africa, Southeast Asia, and the Middle East keep running for decades in brutal conditions, this is why. It starts with something called Shaken. Shaken is Japan's mandatory vehicle inspection program, and it is one of the most rigorous and expensive automotive inspections in the world. Every vehicle over 250 cubic centimeters in engine displacement must pass Shaken to legally drive on Japanese roads. New cars get their first inspection 3 years after purchase. After that, it is every 2 years, without exception. The inspection covers everything: brakes, suspension, steering, lights, emissions, exhaust noise, undercarriage, speedometer accuracy, and more. If your car fails any single item, you cannot drive it until it is repaired and retested. Here is the part that changes everything. The total cost of Shaken, including the inspection fees, mandatory liability insurance, weight taxes, and any required repairs, can easily run $1,000 to $2,000 every 2 years. For older vehicles, the taxes increase even further. This creates an incredibly powerful incentive. Japanese owners either maintain their vehicles meticulously, so they pass Shaken without expensive surprises, or they sell the car before the next inspection comes due. Many Japanese drivers trade in their vehicles every 5 to 7 years, specifically to avoid the rising costs of keeping older cars on the road. The result? Japan produces a constant supply of well-maintained, low-mileage used vehicles that flood the export market. Countries around the world import Japanese used cars because they are consistently in better condition than locally sourced vehicles of the same age. This is not a coincidence. It is a direct consequence of a system that forces regular, comprehensive vehicle maintenance. But shaken is only part of the story. The Japanese driving culture itself protects engines in ways most people never consider. Japan's maximum speed limit on expressways is 100 kilometers per hour, 62 miles per hour. Some newer sections of the Tohoku and Shintomei expressways have been raised to 120 kilometers per hour, 75 miles per hour, but that is the absolute ceiling. In urban areas, limits drop to 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. And here is the thing, Japanese drivers actually follow these limits. Multiple sources note that Japanese drivers stick to speed limits far more consistently than drivers in many other countries. What does this mean for engines? Lower revolutions per minute, less thermal stress, less oil consumption, less wear on bearings, rings, and valves. A Japanese engine cruising at 62 miles per hour on an expressway is loafing along at maybe 2,000 to 2,500 revolutions per minute. A German engine doing 130 miles per hour on the Autobahn is screaming at 5,000 plus revolutions per minute. Over tens of thousands of miles, that difference is absolutely enormous. The Japanese engine accumulates a fraction of the mechanical stress. The oil stays cleaner longer, and internal components last significantly longer. Then there is the maintenance culture itself. In Japan, regular servicing is not just a recommendation. It is deeply embedded in the culture of vehicle ownership. Japanese car owners commonly follow strict manufacturer maintenance schedules, getting oil changes every 5,000 to 10,000 kilometers, about 3,000 to 6,000 miles, rotating tires on schedule, replacing filters on time, and addressing minor issues before they become major failures. Dealerships and repair shops in Japan offer structured maintenance packages that make this almost effortless. Beyond the scheduled maintenance, there is an element of cultural pride. Japanese owners keep their cars clean inside and out. They treat their vehicles with the same respect they give their homes. Interiors stay immaculate. Mechanical issues get addressed promptly. It is not unusual for a Japanese car with 100,000 kilometers on the odometer to have a complete service history with every oil change, every inspection, and every replaced part documented. Japan's infrastructure amplifies all of this. Japanese roads are exceptionally well maintained. Smooth highways, well-paved city streets, minimal potholes. This means less stress on suspension, less vibration damage, and less wear on drivetrain components. Japan's moderate climate in most regions also means less temperature-related stress on rubber seals, gaskets, and electronic components compared to countries with extreme heat or severe winters with heavy road salt. Hey, before we continue, if you are finding this interesting, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button. It really helps the channel grow. Now, here is the part that puts it all together. The contrast between these two driving cultures is staggering when you look at real-world outcomes. German cars are engineered to be driven hard. They are built for the Autobahn. They use direct injection, turbocharging, and tight tolerances to extract maximum performance. But those same technologies become liabilities when paired with extended oil intervals, sustained high-speed driving, and short cold trips. The engineering is brilliant, and the habits around that engineering are what cause the problems. Japanese cars, particularly from Toyota, Honda, and Mazda, are engineered for reliability within a specific operating environment. Lower speeds, regular maintenance, moderate driving. When you combine that engineering philosophy with a culture that actually follows through on maintenance, strict government inspections that force accountability, and driving conditions that do not punish engines, you get vehicles that last seemingly forever. This is why you see Toyota Land Cruisers from the 1990s still working as daily drivers across Africa. Why Honda Civics with 300,000 miles still pass emissions. Why Mazda Miatas from 20 years ago have engines that still pull strong. These cars were not driven at 150 miles per hour on the Autobahn with 15,000-mile oil change intervals. They were driven gently, maintained religiously, and inspected rigorously. And here is the practical takeaway for anyone watching this, regardless of what car you drive. If you own a German car, do not follow extended oil change intervals blindly. Change your oil every 5,000 to 7,500 miles with high-quality synthetic oil that meets your manufacturer's specifications. If you have a direct injection engine, understand that carbon buildup is real and plan for it. Take your car on longer highway drives regularly so the engine reaches full operating temperature and burns off contaminants. Do not just do short trips day after day. If you want to drive like the Japanese, adopt their habits. Follow a strict maintenance schedule. Do not skip oil changes. Do not ignore small issues. Drive at moderate speeds and avoid sustained high engine speeds when it is not necessary. Keep your car clean and treat it with respect. These are not revolutionary concepts. They are disciplines that most people ignore until the repair bill forces them to pay attention. At the end of the day, the engine does not care what badge is on the hood. It cares about how you treat it. Germany proved that even the best engineered engines can be killed by bad habits. Japan proved that even modest engines can last a lifetime with the right ones. That's all for today. If you found this valuable, hit the like button. It genuinely helps the channel. Subscribe so you do not miss our next video. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Are you a German-style driver or a Japanese-style driver? Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.